welcome to Co-ople Mode, a couple's opinion on gaming. I'm Matt.
I'm Rose.
And welcome back from the time-traveling, frog sword-wielding antics of Chrono Trigger. So we're back in the present. How you feeling? How you doing?
Pretty good. A little excited
for
something new and different. I'm kind of hoping it'll hook me a little bit more than Chrono Trigger did. I'm not going to lie.
Well, there was a couple ideas I had originally.
Feel a little ready to sink my teeth into something.
Yeah, and I got this suggestion from a listener who left a suggestion down on Spotify. Shout out again to JFarm. And I was like, you know what? Let's do it. It sounds like an interesting take. It's something very different from Chrono Trigger.
That's good.
Yep. And we are going to be having you play Borderlands.
Really?
Yes, Borderlands, the first one. Specifically, you will be playing the Game of the Year edition remaster that came out recently.
Okay.
I do have the original 360 version as well.
I'm kind of excited for this because that game like that, it always has looked cool, and I've just never played it.
Yep.
Especially back when that game came out. I was like, I'm not a good enough gamer to play a game like this, is how I felt, and I never tried, but I think
you were always worried about the shooter part of it, right?
Yeah, I don't really know why. I mean,
no.
But I always was like, big games used to scare me. I was like, I can't handle that. But I've always wanted to try this, so I'm kind of excited that it got suggested. Thank you.
Yep, and I was like, oh, I'm not going to start you on the third one like I do with so many series. But part of that is I don't think the third one was as well received. A lot of people go back and forth between feeling like Borderlands 1 is the best one and Borderlands 2 is the best one.
I just remember when that game came out, the art on the cover of the case was just...
It stuck out.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I know. It's so cool.
We were fascinated.
And also one of my favorite things is in the opening scene, there's like a little setup and then it comes in with Ain't No Rest for the Wicked.
Oh, really?
That song. And it fits so good and it hits so right. And I love it. Like one of the all-time best uses of a licensed song in video games. And there's quite a few out there, but that one was one of my favorite that I always think of. Now, for people who don't know what Borderlands is, it is a RPG first-person shooter, looter shooter video game. And I say looter shooter because you will be looting a lot in this game. And some people love it a lot. Some people feel like it's the only thing that slows this game down. But honestly, it just ends up being fun if you just let it happen. It was originally released on the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and PC in October 2009. And the original Metacritic scores were like 83, 84 at the time. Now, the remaster is sitting between 76 and 81.
Huh.
And the 76 is the PlayStation 4 version. And I looked and it's because one of the low scores is 58. Somebody was like, it's the same thing. Play Borderlands 2 instead. So I read through the review and it just kind of came across like he liked Borderlands 2 better. And they didn't do enough to this Borderlands to make it worth playing again. And for me, it was like, I get what you're saying to an extent, but to score it that low compared to every other critic, I think all the other lowest scores were at 70 and everything else was in, it was like, I think you're just a little butthurt about it when you're going that low, but that's just me. It's just numbers. I'm going to move on. The Game of the Year Enhanced Edition was released April 2019. They added like 4K resolution, HDR support. They even backported some improvements that were in Borderlands 2 to Borderlands 1, which basically they just took some things that like some quality of life changes that happened in Borderlands 2 and kind of put it back. Like they added a mini map along with your compass because originally you only had a compass. Okay. A couple like customization options for your character. And apparently on console, you can get up to 4-player split screen, which sounds wild for multiplayer. I mean, even 2-player split screen for this game is pretty crazy, and you can do it that way. But we can just play it with the Xboxes. We'll be fine. If you want me to play with you, which is good. Now, this game was published by Take-Two Interactive and developed by Gearbox. And according to them, in December of 2009, they had sold 2 million copies of this game in the first year. And the last known number that they reported was in August 2011. Borderlands 1 had sold 4.5 million units worldwide at that point. It's the first game in 4 official mainline games, which is Borderlands 1, Borderlands 2, Borderlands the pre-sequel, and Borderlands 3. They made a game that took place before the first game as the third game.
Third in line.
Which,
yes.
like, if I remember right, took place on the moon a lot. A moon, not the moon. A moon. And, like, gravity was low. So a lot of fun.
It's acceptable.
Yeah.
They didn't George Lucas it. It's funny.
No, I think that you will recognize the vibe of this game is a little bit zany, a little bit crazy, and like they kind of feed into that.
Okay.
They had a bunch of spin-offs. I don't know if you remember the Telltale series of the Walking Dead games. I played the one which was the Wolf Alone, where I played as the big bad wolf. Yeah. They had Borderlands games like this, which was like telling stories in the Borderlands. Okay. Yep. So they've had a bunch of different spin-offs. One of them was like a DLC for the second game. There's a character named Tiny Tina, who's kind of another crazy character in the game, but she's running like a D&D style campaign. So it was so good, the DLC became a standalone thing you could buy to play this like fantasy Borderlands, with Tiny Tina being the GM talking over you while stuff's happening. It eventually became a full-fledged game on its own, which is one of the other spin-offs, which actually had, I think, like Andy Samberg voiced a character, Wanda Sykes voiced a character. Yeah, so like, and I saw people playing it, and now I really love Borderlands 1 and 2, and I kind of fell off at that point. Like, I got my fill by that point. But this Wonderlands one is like, okay, you know, if I see that on sale sometime for a good price, I think I'm going to pick it up and play it just for the fun of it, you know? And I saw a lot of people playing it at the time, having fun with it. Like, I think it's one of those games where a little bit of it is just kind of shut your brain off and shoot things and enjoy that. And then the other part is like, look at the numbers, and numbers go higher, get that. You know, the Borderlands 1 has 4 official DLC packs. And one of them is like a whole zombie island expansion, you know, where they kind of like take the characters from the game and kind of make them do different things. There's a arena shooter where you just go through waves of bad guys, and a couple other like full mini campaigns, which eventually ups the level cap to 69, because of course they ended on 69. Yep, the sex number, that's the highest level you get. The basic premise of this game is you are on the alien planet of Pandora looking for the vault, and this planet is like desolate. The wildlife there is scary. Literally, all the people that this corporation put on here to find the vault originally was like a bunch of criminals they didn't care about, and that's why there's bandits everywhere. And you are just trying to find this vault for fame and fortune, right? You're a mercenary, and you're one of like the 4 main characters. Now, the original one is you got big guy who punches stuff, siren who can go invisible, a hunter with a sweet hawk, and just your classic everyday mercenary who gets a nice setup turret, which is very useful. Don't get me wrong. And it's just kind of fun to experience this world of Pandora, which just the inclination of calling this planet Pandora, and you're looking for a vault to open, like Greek mythology, right? What happened when Pandora opened that box? Not good things. But like, I just like all them little references that they kind of sprinkled in, and like, it is a cast of characters in here, like a bunch of wild things. I still quote freaking the one guy when you get vehicles finally, catch a ride. It's just this hillbilly, like, come on, catch a ride, every time you walk by, and it's like, yeah, I guess I could drive there. But I've been dipping into it a little bit to kind of refresh my beginning, and I think there's some things that don't hit as good as they hit back in 2009, just because of, I don't know if I got older and maybe things aren't as funny, or it's just that I played the game enough where I experienced it enough times that I remember it.
Yeah.
But it is an amusing world and an amusing thing to explore. Now, one of the key features of Borderlands is the randomly generated weapons. Mm-hmm. Now, this was one of the things was the selling point of the game at first. It uses a procedural content creation system that alters like the firepower, the fire rate, the accuracy of all these weapons you can find, even how they look, like the attachments they have on them, and even like special things like, oh, it does fire damage. Oh, the bullets explode. Oh, this one, the ammo in your clip slowly regenerates. Like,
because they don't look like classic weapons, right? They're all like put together kind of junkyard style, right?
It all depends. Like each weapon is attached to a different like mega corporation that makes these weapons. So like certain ones will have certain styles. Like I think Atlas weapons tend to look very like futuristic and alien. Jacobs has like all these old, like it's wooden revolvers, sniper rifle type look. You get like a typical military stuff from Dahl, like kind of space gun, you know, like space ballistic bullets, not laser bullets, but you know, so like each company has like a basic design and the type of weapons they'll get, and then it just goes from there. And you can like quickly look at guns. They will like, just by the color of the light when they're on the ground, like white is basic. It's like, it's normal, but like as they get better bonuses added on it randomly, you might get green, purple, or blue, purple. I think legendary in this game is like an orangish color. And so like you can kind of look at a glance and be like, okay, I'm not even gonna, like, you're gonna get to a point in this game, you're gonna see green drops and you're like, no, not even worth picking up. Right. It's a waste of my space. If it's not blue or better, I'm not touching it. So they're nice in that way where they kind of give you like a visual aid when you see something on the ground. But they said there are over somewhere between 16 and 17 million variations of weapons because of this. Because it's random. You never know what you're going to get.
That's wild.
There are a few like legendaries that are specific.
Yeah.
But like a lot of these guns are just random. I remember I had a mini rocket launcher that shot like 10 rockets in a wavy up and down pattern, like horizontally. So like as long as you were on flat ground, you were going to hit them with some of the rockets.
Yeah.
You just get some very interesting weapons.
That does sound really fun.
Yeah. So it's kind of cool when you find the weird ones. I've seen ones where to reload your weapon, you toss your weapon like a grenade and it explodes and then a new one forms in your hand. Like,
I love that.
Because why not?
That'd be wonderful.
They use some of this procedural generation for some enemies too. And I think it's mainly for elites you run into. Like they'll add like one of the main monster enemies are called Skags. They're like feral alien dogs essentially. And you will run into elite ones that are like acid ones and they're just glowing green and they'll spit acid at you, or they're on fire or electric, you know, like you'll get these wild ones. They'll even attack differently. So you get a little variation on the enemies, but like overall, it just kind of depends on the area you're in, what you're going to tend to run into. When they originally pitched this idea about Randy Pitchford said when he thought of this idea, he was like, I like role-playing games and like roguelites. I like playing Diablo, which is like a very looter RPG game. Like in the beginning, it's about level up, but like after a certain point, it's all about like your gear. You have to like get enemies to drop stuff, right? And he worked on some FPSs early in his career, and he's like, maybe I can combine these two. And he was trying to figure out, because the core gameplay loop of both those games is different, right? RPGs is about like leveling up, and first person shooters is about like, oh, here's a bunch of combat. Okay, a chance to look around. Oh, here's a bunch of combat. Like,
yeah,
it doesn't seem like it would meld as well, right? And so he actually talked to it about it to like an analyst, this is what he does. And the analyst is like, I don't think that's a good idea. I think if people want a first-person shooter, they're going to go play a game that focuses on first-person shooting. And if they want an RPG, they're going to play a game that focuses on RPG. Well, considering that the Borderlands series has sold more than 30 million copies, he eventually came back and admitted to Pitchford, like, I was wrong. Like, it didn't work.
Well, yeah. You don't even need to say it.
Yeah, he's like, I was wrong. And that's
the whole world knows you were wrong.
And this is like, we've talked about other games that when you combine two different game styles, sometimes you just get half of two good games, right? It detracts from each other.
I know you said that about Brutal Legend, and like I know what you're trying to say there, but at the same time, I'm glad that people try things out like that.
Absolutely.
Like this one obviously worked out really, really well, and you never know until you try it. And I think even ones that do feel like two halves of a good game, maybe they could have gotten there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just finding that right fusion. And I think Borderlands did really good because it was something different enough. And like now you will see RPG element in shooter games so much more often. Like it worked for Borderlands. It can work for my game, right?
Right.
It's just finding that right balance. It doesn't have to be all about the level. You just like you want to make the combat fun and interesting while also like, hey, leveling up's good. Like it helps you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the most basic way it helps you is you got to be a higher level to equip better weapons, right? To get better shields, to get, better artifacts or whatever to like affect your stuff. So it is kind of cool. And I'm glad that he gave it a try. He thought it was an interesting idea. And that's where some of these great games come from, right? Yeah, I think apparently the development of this game started around 2005. And internally they were calling it Halo meets Diablo, which... honestly, I can see with a lot more silliness put into it.
Right.
Now, when this game was originally in development, its art style was a lot more realistic. It looked a lot more like Mad Max almost, or Fallout 3. There was another game out at the time, I think, called Rage, which was very post-apocalyptic type game. And I remember this cover because I had a subscription to Game Informer at the time. I remember seeing this game like, oh yeah, this looks cool. They're talking about all the wild guns you can get. And I remembered it looking very real. And like Borderlands came out and I was like, oh, this game looks cool. Let's play it. And I didn't even realize at first it was the same game until I was like thinking about it. I'm like, wait a second, wasn't another game called Borderlands? And I went back and looked at my old magazine because I kept everything back then. And I was like, yeah, this is the same game. Wow, they changed a lot. So what happened was that they were worried because it looked so much like these games that like it wasn't going to stick out. And like there were some like fantastical elements to the game already, and they like the real style might like kind of detract from each other, right? So internally they made a little demo with like this cell shaded look, and it was really well received throughout the game development, except for the original art director who worked so hard to make the original art. Yeah, this is the only sad thing about this story. They're like, they were so sad about that they ended up quitting. Like, yeah. And I get that when you work so hard. This game, when they changed the art style, this game was 75% complete.
Oh my gosh. So they had to go and go redo.
Yep. So they added this cell shaded like comic book look to everything. And like, like you saw the cover art, right? Like it pops.
Like I said, that's when I hear Borderlands, I think of that right away. The art style, it was really different and it did stand out. And it made it interesting. It made you want to check it out.
Yeah, and I think that ended up being a smart move. It worked for it.
Yeah.
Like, I feel bad that someone's hard work ended up being wasted, but unfortunately, when you're working on something cooperatively as a big group, sometimes that happens. Like, we got to make a change because this won't make us stand out. This might hurt us in the long run.
Yeah.
And, that's the way it goes. But because they switched to this style, they were willing to add more fantastical elements or be a little wilder with it because like, oh, it's kind of cartoon. It's a comic book. We can be a little wilder to it. And I think that really worked out really in their favor for sure. I loved Borderlands 1 and 2. I think I have a tendency to lean towards 2 a little more, but I think that's purely because of the characters. I think the story through the first one I enjoyed more. There's like a robo ninja in the second one that I always play. So, I mean, I think it probably comes down to like my two favorite characters in the second one is the Robo Ninja. And then there's this chick with a robot arm that gets like a robot companion that the Mechromancer it's called. And I like, come on, that name's so good. So yeah, as I was talking about it,
It
I was
always
like,
comes back to robot.
it always comes back to Robo Ninja. Like both the characters are like Cyber Ninja, robot, arm lady with a robot. Oh, okay, I'm a sucker for robots. But that doesn't mean this game isn't good. And I really think starting at the beginning is a really interesting way to go. And yeah, that was a suggestion from our comments, and I saw it. I'm like, I actually didn't think about that, and I don't know why I didn't.
I'm excited to try it.
Yeah, and it's it's actiony, it's faster paced. That'll
be a nice change of pace.
Yeah, like I said, the only thing that ends up happening with these Borderlands games, and like I think later on as you get more used to it, you understand, is that when you go and kill a group of enemies, you collect the loot, you kind of end up like, okay, pause menu, check, did I get anything good? No, okay, and you move on. So like it kind of like takes you out of the loop for a second when you have to go in and like check your loot. But for me, how I tended to play is like I would go kill, collect whatever I wanted to collect, and then once I filled up my inventory, that's when I would stop and like take a second to look through stuff. So I didn't have that that stopping so often. Some people have to stop every time they pick up like a new blue or a new whatever. Unless it was like legendary or super rare, I kind of like, I'm not going to bother waiting to check, especially later on when you're rocking like all purples.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't need to stop and look at this right now.
I'm good.
Yeah. I tend to play in this first one. There is a hunter character and he has what's called the Blood Hawk ability. And you just send out a bird to just straight up murder folks, which is very, very amusing. But I don't want to talk too much about all the characters. We can talk about that more, I think, after you get some time with it. Do you have any questions? How excited? What's your rating for excitement right now?
I would say an 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10?
Yeah,
That's pretty
I'm
good.
excited to try this. I'm really glad I get to.
I think this will be fun.
I do have a few games in my head that I secretly hope you will come around to.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you what they
Oh my
are.
gosh.
This would be one of them, though.
Yeah.
I'm really glad I get to try this. So I'm super thankful for that suggestion.
Yeah.
'Cause this, like I said, I always thought it looked really cool. And I believe in myself and my gaming skills a little more now than I used to.
That's what's great. And I want anybody, again, and I will remind it at the end of the episode, leave a suggestion, leave a comment down below, and like you might think of something I might have forgotten about. Like I said, I played so much over the years. Like it gets hard to be like when you sit down and think like, okay, what should I make somebody try? So give a suggestion and I'm sure to put it on my list, just like Borderlands. But I think it's time for you to go explore Pandora.
Yeah.
So let's get out of here.
See what kind of trouble I can get into.
We'll see you guys in a little bit. Bye. Hello, welcome back from the dangerous wastes of the planet of Pandora.
With dangerous dogs.
Yeah, very dangerous doggos, dangerous bandits of the tall and short varieties.
Yeah, some of them are pretty wild. Yeah. That's true.
Well, I think I read that a lot of Pandora's residents are former incarcerated criminals. So
makes sense.
Yeah, right. It tracks.
What was that character's name that killed me like 4 times? Boneface, I think.
Yeah. Boneface or some. Not even like a full one. Nine Toes was the one.
Yeah.
That was like an actual boss guy. Yeah. So let's hear some opinions. Let's hear how you felt about it and what you thought.
Like I said, I was pretty excited to try this because I always thought the art looked cool. Now, character selection, right? Who am I going to be? I kind of like how you have only 4 options and they're all different styles of fighting.
Yeah.
And I hem-hawed for quite a while. Obviously, like sniper, I'm not going for that. I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. The others, I was like, oh, there's things about them I like. There's things about them I don't. I tried not to pick Lilith, but I ended up picking Lilith because that is how I like to play a shooter game. I like to run in and just shoot, spray and pray. That's my style.
Yeah, I like to use guns with lots of bullets.
She does have that cool ability too, where you can like turn invisible for a couple seconds.
Yep, phase walk.
Yes, phase walking. That's great for me. Actually, the Call of Duty zombie mode has that in it too, in the newest one, right?
Oh,
something similar to that.
Yeah,
where you can do that for a couple seconds and get away.
One of the perks, I think when you upgrade,
that's what it is.
One of the perks, you can do that for a second. Yep.
And I remember always liking getting that perk and working towards that as we got into higher and higher rounds, because for me, like I said, I like to run into the mess. I like to throw my body into the fray.
Yeah, run into the mess. That's for sure.
And that means that, you know, I'm going to get cornered once in a while or get overwhelmed. And then I would use that, and I'd use that perk and I'd sneak out of there.
Yep.
Keep me alive a lot longer. I liked that perk. Man, now I want to play Call of Duty zombie mode.
Yeah.
Dang, that sounds nice.
Oh, that's just a good time killer.
Yeah. Well, so I started the game up, and the controls, I mean, it's shooter game controls. So that's kind of nice because I pretty much knew how to do everything. For some reason, I kept having a little bit of trouble, but I think it was because we've been playing a lot of Monster Hunter Rise recently. The controls for Monster Hunter Rise are very different than a shooter game.
Oh, very much so.
And we've been playing it enough where it feels very intuitive for Monster Hunter. And then you try to throw yourself into it. I'm not good at switching back and forth. It always takes me a while.
Yeah.
You're so much better at that than
I think
me.
that's just a practice thing. I've done it so much. I think the hardest part is when I'm playing games that are similar, right? If you get two first-person or a first-person and a third-person shooter game, sometimes the grenade and the melee button and the sprint button are different. Like Gears of War, like you hold A to run, right? You don't click a stick.
I did keep throwing grenades in Borderlands when I was trying to melee. And sometimes it worked out.
Yeah, so that's usually what causes me problems, is those little differences that the developers like to make in controls when they're very similar, and then I have trouble. When it's a wildly different game, usually it's not as bad as Switch.
Yeah.
The Monster Hunter run, though, RB for run, that's what it is. You want to, time to run.
I think that was part of my problem. I need to throw out my Kinsect and haul ass over there.
Yep. Oh, my goodness.
So I started up and started playing, and I mean, it was pretty... I don't know. It's like it's what I expected, but nothing more, but nothing less. I mean, there really wasn't anything thrilling, you know. And I was kind of surprised because it's a lot more. How would I say it? Objective based than what I thought it was going to be.
Okay.
It's like, go do this, go do that, go do this over here. Okay, now go do that. Like I thought it was more of a free-for-all style game than what it actually is.
Yeah, the way to push forward is a lot more of getting quests to get items or go to certain areas.
I just had a total misconception about it. And I thought that was funny. Like, I've seen you play it for a very, just seconds, but I never really paid attention when you played it.
Yeah.
And for some reason, all I remember is you cruising around just doing wild shit. And I mean, I guess some of the stuff I did was wild, but it just, I had no idea that it was so quest-based play, this whole game. And I was like, is this whole game this? And you're like, yeah.
I mean,
what?
Essentially, it's hard because I think here's the tough part. The beginning of this game lasted longer than I remember it lasting. And maybe that's just because I would run through it, I knew what I was doing, right? Like we were right up at the point where you're going to get your first car, which is pretty early on. And then once you jump into the next area, then you have this whole big area to explore, right? And check out nooks and crannies and stuff. Now you can find some interesting stuff. A lot of times you'll run into okay, there's high level enemies over here. I'm going to avoid that for now.
Sure.
And then when you get to the main town, it's, hey, there's all these different people that want to talk to you and have quests. So then you'll have all these different reasons to explore almost everything. Like, it's not as much like Skyrim is where, hey, I'm just walking, oh, random cave. I'm going to go check that out. Maybe I'll find something good. It's a lot more of like, and every place that you can see, you do usually eventually go for somebody's quest. So they don't really leave any stone unturned. It's mostly like, there might be an interesting platforming way to get to like an item box on top of a building or up in a nook and cranny. You got to figure out how to get up there. And then that's usually how you find that secret stuff. But in the early game, there isn't as much of that. Like very
really
little.
straightforward.
Yeah. And I was like, oh man, like that's hard. And I think for me, like the RPG shooter thing was so new, especially when this first came out. Like it was like, yeah, I'm leveling up, I'm getting new guns, and like that kind of kept me going. But now going back and like playing lots of other RPG shooters, it doesn't quite hook me as fast as it used to.
Yeah, and we kind of talked about that too. I think if I had played this game years ago when it came out, I think I would have been severely addicted to it for a while.
Yeah.
And for some reason, playing it today, it just doesn't hit as hard.
Yeah.
And I kind of hate to say that because I know this is a good game, but it just doesn't have the thrill in it anymore.
Yep.
It kind of got a little old, and that's a little sad to say, isn't it?
It is a little sad. I think Borderlands 1 does show its age a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
This is what I told you before.
Bad,
no, it's not. If you find this game on sale and like you're the type of person that's like, hey, I want to spend $20 and get 60 hours. I want to get 100 hours out of this game.
Yeah.
This is a good game for you to play. It is definitely much better playing with friends and stuff because you get some amusing things that'll happen. But I'll talk more on that later. But I honestly, after playing this, and this is my feeling after replaying through the beginning of this game, is maybe Borderlands 2 is a better starting point if you want someone to try this. Because I think that game kind of gets you going a little faster. You have like a shorter like beginning area, and then it gets you to the main town hub a lot faster.
And I wouldn't say it was too long in the beginning. Like I don't necessarily feel like it drug itself out. I mean, there's the tutorials are fine. They get you through stuff pretty quickly.
Yep.
And it's all, like I said, it's all pretty intuitive at this point to most of us that are going to try this video game. So I think they did really well on a lot of that stuff. I think maybe we're just kind of spoiled now.
Maybe.
It's a new time. We've got some wild things that we get to play with now. And, it makes other things lose their luster a little bit. It's sad to say. But.
Yeah, I think that is the hard part. I think I enjoyed...
for me not having a sentimental attachment because I didn't play it before.
Yep.
It doesn't have that. Like, we'll go back to old games that we love. For the, sentimentality of it. This I don't have that with, so I'm just playing it like, okay,
This is how I feel for me. Like playing this, it's like, oh yeah. Because like I played the Hunter. That was my first choice the first time I played.
Yeah.
I played all of them a little bit.
Sure.
But the Hunter was the one I got through the game with. And it's like, oh yeah, I remember this. And I had a lot of fun. But I think I said this in the first half, I enjoyed the characters and abilities in the second one even more. I think this was a great starting point. And it has all the bones that you need to make this game good. I think they definitely did make it better as they went on. And honestly, it's funny. I have Borderlands 3. It doesn't make me want to go play Borderlands 3. It makes me want to go get the new Tiny Tina's Wonderlands game, like offshoot, where she's like running I don't remember what they call it, but it's essentially like a Dungeons and Dragons with guns campaign.
Yes,
and they had like, yeah. And like, I heard people had fun with that. And I think like, since it's not necessarily in Pandora, it's like a fantasy world that this person's doing. Like it could be a lot more fun and a lot more loose with it. That's what it kind of makes me want to try.
That's a good way to say how I feel about this game. It's got good bones.
Yeah.
It's like an old house that needs some work done. Like it's got really good bones. Everything you need is there. It works really, really well.
Yep.
And mixing the shooter with the RPG, considering that was a newer idea at the time, they did it really well. It's smooth. It flows. You do have different hooks of like trying to get different weapons all the time, but also multiple objectives to go out and do depending on what you are able to do or what you feel like doing at the time, like it does work really, really well together, mixing the two.
Yeah, I mean,
they did a good job.
Yeah, it does. The first-person shooter part feels pretty good. It gets a little tricky sometimes when you're switching through weapons. You're getting used to new sights. Sometimes can be a little off-putting.
That's pretty standard, though.
I never felt like that I was missing somebody because like the game was screwing me over. It's always like, oh my God, I didn't know this skag jumped like that, or I didn't know like this person could do that. You know, that is always what causes me to like miss when I do. But
if you shoot it all.
Yeah. Okay. So we were playing together. I had a sniper and I'm sitting there and Rose just runs right into the thick of it. And I'm like, I'm shooting all these skags. We're knocking them down. She's like, I didn't see you shoot anything. It's like, yeah, it's because I'm a sniper. I'm back here shooting everything. You're the one running into
I don't know. There's 5 skags in front of me. I took all 5 down. I don't know which ones you shot or where they were, but I didn't see them.
Also, anytime we got into a fight, there's like usually like loot in the area. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go look through some loot. And then I'm like, Rose, where are you? And then like, all like halfway across the map on the next hill, I just see Rose's name tag climbing up the hill. It's like, Rose, what are you guys hanging? And so I have to chase after you. And then you're like, I'm killing everything. It's like, I have to come in and save your ass because you're running so far ahead all the time. And then I'm like, use your ability. You're like, I'm fine.
I was fine. Well, I died quite a bit.
Yeah. Oh, that cracked me up. Just, here I am looking in a box of stuff. We just killed all these monsters. And then there's Rose on the next hill, like, here I go.
It's fun.
Like I said, that's what makes it fun when you're playing with multiple people. It just gets kind of wild and crazy. And eventually I was like, I'm just going to switch to a machine gun so I'm right there and she can't escape from me so fast.
It's nice to have help, too. I mean, not that I could have gotten through it on my own, but you blast through a lot faster, even with one more person.
Yeah, even when we were pushing through that, like, where the skags were a little higher level than us.
Yeah.
And like that was tough. Like that was actually a challenge going through there with the guns we had and the level we were at. And I like as a hunter, I have like this sweet hawk I sent out and he like just attacks
it scared me. I'm like, oh no, it's one of those bad things again.
The rock. Yeah, so this is probably
mine.
one of the most amusing things I witnessed, and you hated it at the moment, so I didn't really bring it up. But like up until this point, everything you fight is on the ground. It's skags, which is basically like mutant predator dogs
or people
or bandits, right? And she's running around and she runs into a group of these monsters called the Rock, and they are flying like they're like big bats essentially. And here's the problem. They fly above your head and then they fly a little ways away and then they'll fly directly at you. Yeah. But you didn't know that pattern. So you're like, where the heck are they? What are they doing? And they kept just like dive bombing you.
I thought, hey, I'll outrun them. I'll get away from them.
No, you can't outrun the Rock.
Follow you.
Yeah. So you died to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
that's how you learn that they follow you.
So then you had trauma every time you saw my bird. You're like, oh my God. Oh no, it's just a bird.
Yeah. PTSD. Not again.
Yeah. It's fun. And then the other 2 characters are interesting. You know, you didn't really see them, but Brick's special ability is then he is his fist. Like literally, he just brings out those big old like hams he has and just starts punching things.
I almost chose him. He sounded more my style too, but doggy scritches and scratches.
Yep. Yeah, he probably would have worked for you better because like you would have like you can tap that button and you'll heal up a little bit while you're punching people.
Oh, that's cool.
And then the mercenary guy, he throws down a sentry turret, which will just auto shoot stuff, which is very nice. They all feel very different, and their skill trees like upgrade towards different things.
Yeah, that was interesting too. Plus, there's a lot there in that skill tree.
Yeah, it's not like
it's nuts.
Yeah,
it's a lot bigger than I expected because I put like a few skill points into some things and then saw you can keep going with it like up to 5.
Yeah. I think once you put 5 skill points in one of the trees, you unlock the next 2 skills you can put skills into.
That's a big tree.
Yeah, I think my guy is like pretty close to max out in my FAR game that I have.
Yeah.
But it's kind of cool. Like, so for example, as the hunter, I have skill points I can do to make my bird a lot stronger. Like, he will do way more damage. He will make enemies drop health and loot more often, or like stuff that cools down how fast I can use him, or even up to the point where he'll attack multiple creatures every time I send him out. Ooh. Which gets really useful because like he does a hell of a lot of damage.
Yeah.
Or I can focus on like being really good with snipers, like it increased my sniper damage. I get no gun sway when I'm looking down the scope of a sniper. Like, it reduces the sway down eventually to, I think, almost nothing, which is super nice when you're trying to snipe somebody. Or even I get good with pistols. I can make it so I do 2 shots on my pistol every time I shoot. There's a chance. And like for some guns, which do a lot of damage but shoot slower, all of a sudden it's like you get like a double crit. It's insane.
A lot of these things are very similar to Call of Duty. It's kind of wild.
Yeah, like in the perks that you get. Yep. Yeah. And like it's in that vein, and it's interesting. And like the way it can mix with certain guns you eventually get. And I think that's the only thing I'm sad that you didn't really get to experience. You got one gun that was kind of interesting and from Nine Toes, and it was a little pistol, and you didn't use it because the damage was lower, but it also would set enemies on fire if you would use
Yeah,
that.
I know, I saw it.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to use it.
Yeah, no, and that's fine. I get it. Like, that early in the game, damage is probably more important than inflicting a burn over time.
I had skill points. I didn't put it in my tree to make that elemental damage like hit harder. I chose other things. So I was like, I'll save this for later.
Yeah.
I don't even, not even going to use it right now. I upgraded my weapon damage and then upgraded my phase walking too. So I think I only earned like 4 or 5 skill points, you know.
Yeah, we got to like level 8. We didn't get super far.
So that's one of those, and it, like with as much loot as you find in this game kind of constantly, it's hard. It's actually hard to get too excited about any gun in the beginning because you know that there's going to be so much better stuff. Like,
yeah.
I'm sure it's hard to find, but once you get something that's decent that can kind of carry you through, for me, I don't really give a shit about anything else. I'm like, I'm just going to keep using this and be consistent with it because until I find that really awesome rare drop that I really want, that I love, you know what I mean? Like, and that's kind of how I play games like that. I find what works for me and I usually stick with it. Yep. You like to try every single thing out. I'm good with just doing my thing, you know?
I think the hard part for me is sometimes there are certain effects on guns that might affect it other than the obvious damage, rate of fire, accuracy, that will actually greatly affect how much damage. There's been guns I've used where it says that it does less damage, the rate of fire is the same, accuracy is the same. Why would I use this gun? Well, it's because this gun, when it gets a critical hit, it does 200% more damage. And when you get a critical hit, the bullet explodes to nearby enemies. And you get these crazy effects that'll happen.
I know, but I think I'm brain broken now because I hear you say that. And I'm like, I would wait to use that until I had skilled out my critical damage. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I don't know what's happened to me, but I consciously thought that in that moment. Like, no. I'd save that for then and then use only that gun for the rest of the fucking game because I'd be absolutely annihilating everybody.
Yeah. I think the beginning of the game, you level up quickly. You can spend some points how you want. Plus, if you want, you can go to one of those new U machines and you can respec.
You can change your character.
If eventually you get a gun and you're like, man, I wish I put points into this, you can spend a little bit of cash and like try again.
Yeah.
So they don't ever lock you into something you might not want, which is
kind of nice.
Really good. I was just sad that you really didn't get a taste of like that crazy guns that you can get. And that was part of the fun. But
yeah,
honestly, to me, I feel like it adds a lot more, but maybe to you, it might not have. So like, it's up in the air.
I think it probably would have added more if the game was a little more compelling for me. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the biggest thing. Like, overall, it's just not that compelling. I'm not really drawn to it. I'm really neutral on it.
Yep.
Again, It's like, I know this is a good game. I really don't have any desire to play it more, though, because it's such a long game.
Yep.
And it's like, especially playing by myself. It's like you said, like if you and I, if this was a new game and we were trying to get through it together, that would be a blast. I would have fun. But for me, myself, to just sit there and play that on my own, I have no reason to. I would rather like sit with you and do horde mode together instead.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that's fun. Like you said, this game's fun when you watch the shenanigans happen with each other. And I think that's when the game shines and it's the best. It really, really is. Again, it's good for friends.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
I mean?
Good with a group of people.
Hell yeah.
And I
just one other person, it makes such a big difference.
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be the group of 4. Even just one other person, I feel, makes a huge difference in how much fun it can be.
Because just doing it on my own, it was like, you're just kind of grinding.
Yeah.
It almost started to feel a little grindy.
Yeah.
And then when you jumped in, it was fun.
Yeah.
You know?
I feel like that too. I think the difference for me is I might dip into this a little more just to play some more again. But I think it's because it's almost relaxing. It was kind of weird when I was playing it by myself. I'm like, I just kind of was in the zone. I'm just like shooting things like, okay, is this gun good? Nah, okay, I'll keep what I got. And then I just keep going. And I don't know if it's just that it's so familiar to me, but I was just kind of chill about it. And I was kind of enjoying that aspect of it. And I think that was kind of nice. I believe, though, if this game sounds interesting to you, if you want to get your friend, your spouse, whoever into a shooter game because it's got level up mechanics, I actually think that Borderlands 2 might be the better choice to start someone with. Because, and this is the key reason,
I think it's hard to get people into shooters when they don't know how to play them.
Yeah, if they don't know how to play shooters.
This one might be tricky. A little bit easier.
It's a little easier because you got a range of things you can do. And like if you're playing with somebody else, it does help that you have a buddy that can like cover for you, you know?
I guess I will say this, like the benefit of this one versus a different shooter game is it's not overwhelming with character choices and styles of fighting at first, and that can be helpful to a new player, really helpful. I mean, you got 4 choices. They're all very different from each other. Which one do you think you want to try, right? And then after that, like I said, there is so much loot everywhere. It's kind of wild. I almost feel like it was a little bit too much.
Yeah.
But there's going to be an easy way to get them a weapon that they like. They're going to be able to learn how to use it. They're going to be able to stick with it or get something better. It's easy to like learn the basics and branch out in this game. I understand what you're saying. That does make sense. And
I think even the story is a little more enjoyable. Like, I think this is a good baseline. Like, you're vault hunters, you want to find the vault. That's where the riches are. That's, you're going to be famous. Like, that's the driving force for your characters.
It's simple,
and you got the guardian angel shows up and she's like, hey, listen to me, do these
bossing
things.
You around all the time.
And you're going to find the vault. Like, I'm going to help you, just listen.
Yeah,
it's like, okay. And that's like the main thing. It's like, I'm going to go do these things so I can find the vault. But Borderlands 2 kind of has a main antagonist in Handsome Jack. And right from the beginning, the opening cutscene of Borderlands 2 is Handsome Jack trying to kill you, trapping you vault hunters on a train, trying to blow you up. And then you escape and you're like, I'm going to get back at Handsome Jack. So, but he will like chime in and taunt you because he's just this sarcastic, egotistical jerk. But it's kind of amusing that you have this guy just poking and prodding the bear essentially, and you're like, nah, man, when I get my hands on you, you're done. You're so done. And I think that has a little bit more like, for some reason, I think for a game of this type, that kind of helps drive you a little bit more than just like, hey, this guy's going to get famous. No, this guy's been picking at me this whole time, and I am sick of his shit. Yeah. Like, I think for a game where you shoot a lot of people, that's a little bit more of a motivation, I guess, just personally.
That's true.
Oh, anything else you wanted to add or like, I mean, like we said, the shooting feels good. It's nice to have some level up options and like, you can steer it how you want. That's nice.
Yep.
And all the characters do definitely feel different. Maybe not for the first 5 levels, but once you start getting into their abilities.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, I don't feel like there's a lot to say about music or graphics or anything. It's.
What about the opening song? Did you enjoy that?
Gosh, that made me feel old.
Yeah.
I was like, how is this song this old? This song isn't that old, right? And
Yeah.
it's just it was good, especially for the time. Like, I could see how that would get you pumped up.
Yeah.
Oh man, we're getting really old.
Not that old yet. You know,
It depressed me, but it was good.
you know, there was a study done recently where they asked elderly people, like what age would they, if they could be young again and have
Is
their
this
young
related
body,
at all?
they would say
podcast?
mid-30s. Everyone wants to be our age. That's what they want. This is prime time, baby. This is the good stuff.
I made it.
Yep, I made it. Woo. All right. What?
I mean, the graphics were good, pretty standard for the time. Nothing.
Yeah, and we're playing the cleaned up version, but it
That's
holds
true.
up good. Like it looks good.
And I never had any weird janky things happen. I mean, I didn't play it all day, every day, but it worked well.
You had one janky thing happen.
What was that?
It was the voices. When you walk up to people in this game,
I did
they'll
forget.
talk to you, but sometimes when you initiate talking, they'll also have voice lines. But you got a weird glitch, and this didn't happen to me, where I think you just you ran in there, he started talking, and you hit X at like just the right point, and then it was talking over
running
each other.
and throwing grenades.
Yeah.
That pissed me off.
Yeah, you threw a grenade in there first before you did
No,
it
I
too.
didn't.
I'm pretty sure you did.
I was
you were trying to
joking.
kill Zed.
That did really make me angry though, because like I'm just starting this game.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to listen to what this character's telling me, and he's literally talking over himself. And when two people are talking, I get no information.
Yep.
Like if there are two people talking to me at the same time, I don't hear anything from either one of them. And I tell them both, stop it. Start over one at a time. I get all hot about that.
Oh my goodness. Well, let's get your rating. What kind of rating do you think you give this?
I think this game deserves like a 7 out of 10. It's a really good game. Now, I think it's funny because I think it deserves a 7 out of 10. Am I going to play it again? Nah, probably not.
That's why I have those two questions. What are you going to rate it, and
Yeah.
if you're going to play it again?
Like,
you can
I
recognize a good game.
Yep. Game recognized game, right? Like
Love that.
it's a good game, and like we were saying, the bones are there. Like it flowed really well with combining those two elements together. The RPG, the shooter style. There is a lot of loot, but that's good and bad. Like it's good because there's always that gambler style thing of like, oh, am I gonna find an awesome gun here?
That's why the people call it the looter shooter.
Yeah, it's done really, really well. And like I said, I think if I played it at the time it came out, I would have really loved it back then.
Yeah.
Probably would have sucked really bad, but I would have gotten better.
You were scared of first person shooters back then. I think that's why you didn't want to play it.
I would do it, but like I knew how to do Halo and Gears of War.
Gears of War you really liked.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I think the cover shooter
I mean,
was
I'd
more your
play
thing.
Halo, but I'd always get my ass kicked right away, which was fine because it was just fun to play,
Yeah.
right? But I didn't. Yeah, I was bad enough that I think that kind of tinged my idea of you're not good at this kind of game. You know what I mean? Because previously in my life, the only other thing like that I ever had experience with was James Bond 007 for the N64, GoldenEye. Like, that's it.
Yeah, and that, like, I mean, it is a first-person shooter, but like,
you're playing against your siblings, you know?
that game was, hey, are they in front of you? Pull the trigger, because like it wasn't as much like I have to aim at the right part of the body, because if you took the time,
no, not back then.
Yeah, if you took the time to do it, you just got lit up immediately. Oh goodness!
Don't talk any shit about that game. That game was awesome.
No, it will always hold a special spot in my heart.
Yeah, but
Choppers only.
karate chop. I forgot about that.
Yep. That stupid hand, like that block of a hand.
Oh my goodness.
Few chops and you take someone out.
Yeah. All right. What were we?
We got your
we
rating.
Get so distracted.
I know. 7 out of 10. Won't play it again.
I'm sorry, but I liked it. I did like it. I didn't hate it the whole time. I enjoyed it. Yep. It just doesn't have the hook for me anymore.
That's okay.
I didn't get hooked.
Anything else you've been playing this week, last couple weeks here?
Northgard.
Yeah. Mostly Northgard.
Not a lot, but a little bit. I snuck some in.
Yeah. I don't think anything else really.
No, we kind of technically finished Monster Hunter Rise. And now I don't want to start.
She got all sad because we got through the main story of Sunbreak, and then I just watched her face drop.
Yeah, Matt was all happy, and I was like, "Oh no, I didn't think this would be the final monster."
But it's not.
There's always more.
There is more, but you just got
sad. I know,
sad.
but I said they showed me the credits, and it's done now. You know what I'm saying? Like, there is more, but to what end?
For example,
it's gonna end soon.
For example, Rose is the person, when we played Skyward Sword, was ahead of me the whole time we were both playing the game, back and forth. She got to right before the final dungeon, she stopped playing, and I got past her and I beat the game. And I was like, why did you stop playing? You were ahead of me the whole time. And her response was, if I went through the dungeon, the game would be over. So she just stopped playing anyways, and you didn't finish it. Like, it's like, oh my gosh, you're so close.
Never did.
Oh, she did. She just stopped. And it's so funny. She was sad it was going to be over, so she stops playing it anymore, and then it's over anyways. You poor girl. Oh, my goodness. But yeah, so I'm glad we got through it, and I'm sure you'll get the itch to play some Monster Hunter, and we'll play some hunts.
There are some monsters that I can see that we haven't discovered yet. So I mean, there is some new stuff, but like, I don't know. It's at the point where it's like, what am I hunting for to get monster parts to upgrade weapons and armors? Because like, oh no, I'm the toughest and baddest there is. Like, what's the point now? What am I doing this for?
Yeah, well, we haven't fought a master rank Valstrax.
We haven't?
Nope.
Oh, okay, cool. That's something to do.
We snuck a high rank one there in the middle.
But yeah, see, okay, so we do that. What's the point in getting his armor? There's nothing worse than him to defeat. You know what I'm saying?
There's him. We got Sinister Magnum.
No, I mean, do you know what I'm talking about, though?
I see what you're saying, and I get that.
That's why it makes me sad.
I think this is the different things. Like, you and me tend to have things we focus on that we like. But I think at this point, this is where you can do some experimenting. You can make some really crazy sets for fun. Like,
I know,
you could try new things.
That's the thing. Like, I could make this like, and I know this is what a lot of people probably do. This is the point where they just absolutely
grind out everything they want.
Their abilities to the maximum limits.
Yep.
Like, they have all the right gems, all the right armor, all the right everything to make them the deadliest alive. But again, to my point, there is no point in it because now everything's dead. You did it all. You killed all the stuff. Like, these kind of games, and I've said this before, like, what I love is feeling like you are getting ahead of the game a little bit. Like, you're a little bit tougher than you should be at the time. Like, you're just good enough at it.
You're just keeping up with it.
You're just a step ahead, right?
Yep.
And when you get to the end, there's not that motivation anymore. I can't get ahead of the game now.
Yeah.
The game's done. You know what I mean? So now that we finished Daybreak, now I'm going to respectfully ask, please, I hope you're working on another Monster Hunter.
I do hope Capcom's working on another one. I guess we could go back and play Monster Hunter World.
Yeah, that's the thing I was thinking too. It would be nice to... I really, really love Monster Hunter Rise, though. That one is definitely my favorite. Monster Hunter Rise forever. I will die on that hill. Yep. But I was thinking about going back to Monster Hunter World and trying to finish that DLC. But there's a part of me that wants to start that over from the beginning because, like I said, when you had me go back to it, my stuff was so janky and messed up.
Yeah, and honestly, for you could probably solo through all that beginning stuff now. Like, you don't need me to help you with that. Bruh, so if you wanted to,
I'm 20 levels higher than you in Daybreak.
Sunbreak.
I don't even know what it's called.
I don't even know what it's called, but I'm 20 levels higher than you.
That is not good.
That's really funny. Oh my goodness. But yeah.
Why can't I remember names of things? I can remember people's names. I know where I live, I promise. I'm not an idiot, but for some reason, video game names, I get them all mixed up in my head.
Well, it's because they always have like crazy names. Like
they're all so similar.
Sunbreak and Iceborne and World of Assassination. Like it's always these intense things that are
Pokemon Sun and Moon.
Yeah,
Monster Hunter Rise, Daybreak. Like there's so many. They all use the same names for everything that are so close together.
There's two games one called The Outer Wilds and oh my gosh, there's another one that's like they're both almost the same thing. It's like they both sound like The Outer Wilds, and one is like a Fallout 3 style space shooter, and the other one is like a crazy like sim where you're landing on planets trying to solve this like solar system puzzle, essentially. Completely different games.
I feel like in the last year, 2 years, there's been like a billion space games that have come out, and I can't name you one of them because their names are all so similar to each other, and I could not tell you which ones you do what because they're all very different. I just randomly hear stuff about these. Excuse me. And yeah, people need to get a little bit more creative with the naming of their games. Borderlands, that is a good example of a creative new name for a game, right?
Yeah.
That was different than everything else. Good job, guys. No more naming things after suns or moons or anything like that.
Yeah, no, that's going to happen. Good luck with that one. Liza P. Great name.
Hey, at least I know what it is.
Yeah, yep.
You say that, and I'm like, oh, it's Pinocchio.
I was dipping back into Sea of Stars. That's what I've done a little bit, and I'm like, gosh, this game is
Sea of
good.
Stars. I'll never remember that.
Yeah, but it's so fun. I think just again, what's great about this game is like, yeah, the combat is good, the battles are good, and they can be challenging, even the regular ones if you are not ready. But just running around the area is so cool. You can climb up on things. There's vines. There's like different ways to interactive, and you look at the map and you got to figure out, how do I get to these places? And it's been really cool. I like it. I mean, I've been enjoying it.
It's cute art.
Yeah, the art, and it just looks so clean. Like it is how I remember playing like Chrono Trigger and the Final Fantasy games. Like that's the vibe you get, even though you know, like, okay, this looks way better than that. And all the animations, the sprite animations that they have, there's so many. Just even when they're running, like there's so many, the hairs waving, all that nonsense. Oh, but yeah, that's about it. Any last closing words?
Dang, I'm off the game. I forgot to
She forgot her joke.
I forgot to get a good joke for today. I haven't had, and I had last time I couldn't find a joke that was related.
You could have found a good Pandora's box joke.
Oh, for today?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was still thinking about Chrono Trigger. I was like, it was so hard to find a joke about Chrono Trigger. Sorry, I was like, God, that was...
Okay. Well, thank you to Brother Ray for our caricatures. I love them. And thank you to you, our listeners. We appreciate you every day more and more. Feel free to leave a comment, a review, a like, a follow.
Thank you to the listener who suggested this game.
Yeah.
I appreciate
shout
that
out
a lot.
again to JFarm. Thank you for suggesting. I actually did not have that on my list, and I was like,
which is wild.
Yeah.
I've always secretly wanted to play this game.
Yeah.
That makes me a little worried about what's on that list.
Well, you got to remember, there's so many games. There are so many games. And like sometimes my memory works very
now you see it, it's in your head.
Yeah.
Don't see it, it's
very
gone.
catalyst oriented. So like I'll walk by something or see something that like, oh, that reminds me of that. And then I'll have it. But like just to like sit in a chair and like, let's think about 50 games that I need to play. Like the first time I only got up to 30 and I just slowly added stuff. That's how I worked. But that's it. Thank you again, J Farm, for your suggestion.
Thank you for the music.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. You're welcome. I love you. I don't know what to say anymore. Let's get out of here.
So say your name.
I'm Matt.
I'm Rose.
And this has been Co-ople Mode. You keep gaming with your bestie. Ta-ta!